everybody. Welcome to another amazing episode of Roll or Die. We've got today a real treat for you. He's one of the fiercest competitors around. Like every time I see a serious comp, this man's name shows up. And he's just been, he hasn't been, it doesn't feel like he's been around forever, but when he's competing, it looks like he's been around forever. So I really want to welcome to the show today, Jess Smith.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah, you are an OG, Jess. I mean, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu? Even though you're really young, though. How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
I think I started around 2009, so 13 years now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right?
How old are you? Are you comfortable to share your age?
Yeah, 31.
Okay.
I think he had to take up jiu-jitsu because every weekend was taking him for Drake. And so he was like, just kept asking for money and, too many get off me. And here we are.
You've been waiting to show that, haven't you, Anton? That's why you've been so keen to get Jess on the show. So tell us, Jess, how did you get started in jiu-jitsu in 2009?
I had a friend. I was at a nightclub and I just had a friend that was into it. I was living down in Gippsland at the time. He just came up to me at the club and just started like chucking a rear naked choke on me as a joke.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, hey man, what are you doing? Shrugged him off, and then he's like, oh, it's jiu-jitsu, mate. You got to come try it. And I was like, all right, sweet, I'll come give it a try. Always wanting to sort of get into some form of martial arts when I was younger, but never really had much of an opportunity down there. There just wasn't really any clubs at the time. And when he said jiu-jitsu was down there, I was like, all right, sweet. When I tried one class, and that was it. I was hooked. So
that's awesome, man. And mostly I see you around in the no-gi comps, and you did compete at the nationals just recently in gi. So have you tracked no-gi, or have you always been anti-gi?
No, it was always done sort of 50-50. Always trained in both. I think it was back in 15 or 16. I copped 3 pretty bad heel hooks. Tore all my ankle ligaments in both ankles, actually. Mainly the ATFL, and then fractured one as well. Thanks to one of your teammates, Richard. Actually, he popped it, went off like a shotgun.
Wow!
And he froze like a ghost. He stopped. Sorry,
Richard Latamagi.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Richard, you bad.
So, it went off. I've still got footage of it. He looked like he was about to throw up mid-match. Wow. And I remember just saying to him, nah, man, keep going. And because he was about to stop, and he paused. He literally stopped. I'm like, hey man, keep going. We're all good. And I didn't actually realize what the damage was until the match was done. And then I had another couple of good matches with Jacob Myers-Braun and Manny McInnes, who again both caught me with heel hooks. And then after that experience, I was like, nah, I need to change this up. So started training a lot more no-gi. Started focusing a lot more on wrestling. Went and saw Lockie and a couple of the guys down there for a bit, which was good. Got some good sessions in with them. And then started just diversifying my game a little bit, sort of straying away from gi. And then just started competing more in those super fights, which was good. So I started getting offered a few more of those. And then COVID hit, so I'd actually won the ticket to the Abu Dhabi Pro in 2020. Unfortunately, couldn't do that. And I was going to do Worlds that year as well. Again, couldn't do that due to the restrictions. So sort of delayed all my comps in the gi, and then decided to do this one, Nationals. So 3 years later.
Amazing, man.
So 2015-16 with the heel hooks and the injuries, I guess you were ahead of your time then in getting those injuries and stuff like that coming on for you, because heel hooks were, I feel like they're only a thing that's been the last sort of 3-4 years, but you've been getting heel hooked for a lot longer.
Since before that?
No, even when I first started, my coach down there, we were always doing them, even at white belt. So I think just a lot of those high level, and we never got injured doing it. We always did it safely.
What are your thoughts on that, on white belts doing heel hooks?
I think it's fine as long as you've got the right mentality when you're training. You just got to have the mentality that you don't want to. You're not there to be king of the gym. you're there to put a particular type of resistance for your partner to then learn. So if your partner's really struggling, you can dial down the resistance. If they're getting it too easy, you can start to amp up the resistance. And it's just being smart with your training. Like I try to enforce, say that to all of our members at the gym, and we don't have any. I'd like to say we don't have hardly any injuries when we're training, which is good. Because there's no ego when people walk in through the door. We all know what we're there for. You do go to some other clubs, and as soon as you walk in, you can sort of get a bit of a vibe that people are going to be, trying to yank stuff on as soon as they can get something. So, I don't mind it, to be honest. Everyone at our gym is from white belt up. We're all allowed heel hooks. So,
what is your gym, man? Because my dodgy intros, I don't even know where you train. where do you
over at Kilo East. So we only opened up November last year.
Is it your gym?
So we've only, yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Awesome.
So only been around for 8 months now. So we're still fresh, but coming up to a year this November. So
Congratulations, man. That's epic.
And so you've just started
Thank
coaching
you.
as well, Jess? You're coaching there?
Yeah, correct. So I'm basically coaching every class there. And then I've got Glenn, one of my students, who's doing the kids classes for me. And then we're slowly putting on more and more classes. So we just introduced wrestling on Friday nights, which one of our other students, Billy's taking the wrestling classes. He does wrestling with Billy Abdu. So it's all going well.
That's brilliant, man. What about the mindset, man? Because you bring a really great mindset to your, I don't know, do you get nervous? How do you deal with nerves, or just in general, how do you talk to us about your prep?
Definitely get nervous, more so now that you sort of in a coaching position. You sort of feel that pressure a little bit leading up to comps, but I just try to go out there and just set an example, like especially for the people that aren't confident in competing, just showing that you can do a full-time job, you can go coach at a gym, you can have kids, all this sort of stuff, all these outside pressures, and still compete and do well. That's sort of the main reason I compete these days. I would like to go back compete, in some form of international comp, but just at the moment with the gym, kids and everything like that, it's just a little bit hard to sort of get that time away.
So you've got kids, yeah?
Yeah, 2 kids. Yep.
How old are your kids?
3 and 6 months.
Oof. Busy time. That's hectic. Jeez, and you've got all this on your plate. Oh my God. If you want some time management advice, come to Jess.
Yeah.
And also, can I say too, thank you so much for jumping on straight away, like as being one of our guests. Like it's awesome. As I've said with other guests, we love it when people are so accommodating and just jump straight in. So thank you so much for making yourself available for us. So soon.
No problems at all.
Now I want to teach you something, Jess, right? Because this is important, right? Listen up, brother. Listen up. So Kim's partner Theo, he's from South Africa, right? And he used the word guffaw the other day, right? So guffaw, he was like, I could hear from Kim's guffaws. It was a good episode. So then I was like, okay, we need to start talking in some more ye olde kind of English, words that don't get used. So then I found this old list of 10 old English words, right? And here's one that we picked out that's pretty amazing that no one will know. And you could use it in your gym. You could share it with people if you like. It's clinomania, right? Clinomania, which is an obsessive desire to lie down, right? And I feel like in jiu-jitsu, we're all clinomaniacs, right? Like I feel like you can introduce, like I'm Jess Smith, I'm a clinomaniac, and they're going to be like, what does that mean? This obsessive desire to lie down. So, are you a clinomaniac? I just want to check in with you, man. It's very important.
Thank you for that. Never heard of it before, actually.
And how do you feel about that, Jess? Do you think, because you're a bigger guy, if you don't mind me saying, but you've got a pretty decent guard, like you've got a really good guard. What do you think, particularly for people who are coming up through the ranks as a bigger guy, like what sort of advice would you give them around guard?
As in whether to play guard or stay standing up as a bigger person?
Yeah, so like how have you found through your journey, like being a guard player as a bigger guy?
Good question. definitely think it's good to work on your guard first. Obviously, you want to get your guard tight, especially guard retention. So I think the defensive aspects of guard probably the most important. Just super simple stuff is, keeping your elbows and knees super tight to your upper body, upper frame when someone's trying to pass. Simple stuff like that. And then obviously from there, developing different aspects of guard, close guard, de la riva, the specifics of gripping, etc., and breaking posture. Just those little fundamental keys, I think, is good for someone starting off. But I think for any, regardless of your weight, I think it's also good to then develop some sort of stand-up game. So having a base in wrestling, I think is the best, or judo if you're more gi specific. But yeah, I think splitting your time 50-50 or a little bit more towards the guard aspect, definitely beneficial, rather than just being all guard and having no stand-up at all. But you do see world champions go out there and basically primarily just play guard.
Yeah.
They'll go in, pull guard straight away. It just all depends on your strategy as what you want to play.
Yes.
And you've introduced wrestling, right? Does that mean you've got a wrestling background? Is that something that you've implemented a lot into your training previously, or?
Done little bits of wrestling, judo here and there, all through sort of the journey as I've gone. I've just always enjoyed wrestling, the high pace, the fast pace, the scrambles. So, and yeah, it just sort of flows back into jiu-jitsu nicely. So even with my game match against RoD, sort of I got a little bit stuck there with the grips because he has a very good judo base. I know that he's got really good throws and sweeps. So I just sort of ignored the grips completely, went in there with a collar tie and just started trying to break down the head. I could tell that was kind of annoying him a little bit, sort of feeling that pressure on the back of the head. He wasn't really used to that. He was sort of expecting someone to pull him laterally. So when you're sort of pulling the head down directly, it's a lot different to someone just grabbing the lapel. So I really enjoyed the wrestling.
Awesome.
And Anton touched on it before about the mental side of it, but as he said, you are a really regular competitor. You're always competing. What sort of prep do you do? Do you study your opponent's games at all to know what they're going to be doing? Do you just kind of go in there and wing it? Do you have a bit of a strategy? What do you do before you compete?
Definitely don't do any study on my opponent's game. I would only really do that if I was going, international comps. Maybe if I had an opponent for a super fight lined up or something like that, I would then maybe go study some game. But nationally in Australia, not really. I don't really go study anyone. I like standing up, obviously, and trying to play top game, top pressure, and passing. That's always sort of been one of my strengths. And my guard's sort of more there as a backup in case I get put there. But I still practice a lot of that in training. So yeah, really it's going for a takedown, stay standing up, keep the top pressure, keep heavy, go for a pass, and then either submit from some form of armbar or get to the back, submit from there. So.
And you seem a really cool, collected customer. Do you get nervous? Like, how do you deal with your nerves? Is it just poker face the whole time, or how do you?
Yeah, it's just a poker face. I'm definitely always nervous. It's just holding a good poker face. I always know like my opponent's just going to be as nervous as I am. So really it's just who could get in there first and implement their game the quickest. That's ideally what it is. So if he starts implementing his game first, I've got to somehow stop that and start implementing what I want to do quicker. So. And
you mentioned kind of like annoying work, right? And which I understand. Is that something you look for? Are you looking for signs of your opponent? Like, I think that popped up on my screen. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's on the correct setting.
It is. Good. Thanks. Sorry, Jess. Sometimes Anton doesn't set the configuration correct on this. Sorry.
That's right.
All good.
Yeah. So looking for your opponents to be annoyed, is that something that you play for? Do you try and get an emotional reaction and then like target in on things like that? Is that part of your game?
No, not really. Not really. I just hadn't played gi for that long. And I definitely wasn't. I feel like he's got probably the better stand-up game when it comes to judo. So I thought maybe if I can try to implement some wrestling against that, I'd have a better chance of actually getting a takedown on him.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really look to annoy my opponents as such. I hate stalling or just sort of having a boring match. I just want to keep the pace fast if possible.
Nice.
And just try to, again, implement action, get to a submission. End of the day, that's what we're there to do. We're not there to just sort of sit, hold, get 2 points, move on. So yeah, if I finish that way, I'm pretty disappointed in myself, to be honest.
Nice. So you know about the points. I like it.
Nah. Always have tried to just finish wherever I can. So
Right. Brilliant.
or just keep racking up the points too. Like even if I've got an advantage or 2 points ahead, whatever, just keep moving, like progressing onto the next position. Essentially, you can treat your matches at comps just like practice. So
That's great. That's a great mindset.
And what about outside of jiu-jitsu? What else do you do? Other things to supplement your jiu-jitsu, like stretching, yoga, weight training, strength and conditioning?
Just did a little bit of yoga and a little bit of stretching, but I've kind of been lazy with that lately. Do a lot of kettlebells. Recently just put a mini gym set up in the gym, so strength and conditioning area.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using that a bit lately. To be honest, a lot of the stuff I do is just sort of rehab to sort of combat me sitting at a desk during the day. So a lot of it is back, posterior chain exercises. So it'd be kettlebell swings, rows, shoulder work for the rotator cuff, all that sort of stuff, just so basically keeping my body in line, preventing any injuries. It's not so much as to get stronger, it's just more maintaining and avoiding injury. That's really all I do to sort of supplement jiu-jitsu outside of actual training.
What do you do?
Pretty much. Yeah, I don't really get accountant/business advisor. So recently just finished my MBA a few months ago. So just currently working. Sorry?
Drake has skills. More than just sitting on the stage, man. You've got it all. You're the whole package.
Yeah, I feel very inadequate here. I mean, look, you're working a full-time job, like full on. You've got a young family, and you're now just taking on a new gym as well, and you're competing. Like, wow, how do you find the time for
your guests on the show, Kim? Stop it at once.
I know, right? We need to make ourselves look better here. Not make ourselves look worse. This is terrible.
Yeah, I literally don't. I don't do anything apart from work, train, spend time with family. Eat, sleep. It's literally my schedule. Don't watch TV or anything. Even on the weekends, I'm sort of studying jiu-jitsu. I think that's a lot of things that coaches don't do is they'll just rely on what they've been taught in the past from previous coaches rather than continue to actually study, progress. Their own game, or just keep studying and evolving themselves. They'll just keep going back to the same techniques that they've always been taught, whether it be right or wrong.
Yeah.
So
I'm interested in your views on socializing, right? Because like one of the things I've found, because I lead a similarly busy life, and I really deprioritize like socializing happens, via osmosis. Like this is socializing to me, you know what I mean? But I'm really going out, hanging out, having lunch with people, or putting on a barbecue or anything like that I did in my, say, 20s or something. I don't know. And some people think that's, wrong. But where are you? Like, am I alone here that I don't really socialize except through these kinds of avenues, or what do you like?
Nah, I'm pretty much the same. It's socializing happens at jiu-jitsu. Otherwise, my majority of my socializing is like on the way to training. So I'll just make phone calls. So on the way to training, I'll just call someone. On the way back from training, call someone. If I quickly take my dog for a walk on my lunch break, I'll again call someone. So that's sort of when the majority of my socializing happens. I don't actually have that much face-to-face. Catch ups with people anymore. Like
not socializing for socializing's sake, socializing as part of a function of something else. Yeah,
correct.
And how have you found being a dad? Has that changed things for you, like in terms of your outlook on life and stuff like that, or still same, or
still similar? Still similar. Obviously, you become a lot less selfish. It becomes about your kids, everything you do. So obviously with the gym, everything like that. So your mind does shift a little bit away from competition, aspiring to be a top competitor. So now when I compete, like I said, it's more just practice, keep developing my skills, and just again set the example just to show that your students, even if they are working jobs, which the majority are, that you can still go out there, compete, and have some success regardless of your level.
So you're saying you see comps as just like practice, just to sort of test yourself. You don't put pressure on yourself. You don't have any expectation for the outcome. You just go in there to see where you're at.
100%. I think like these days, especially nationally, there's too many people, like especially Australians now, that have had a great amount of success overseas, that I kind of feel like nationally, not that they're meaningless, but it's just good to get a practice run. Like you being a national title holder or a Pan Pacific title holder, it's good, but end of the day, it's not really going to help you in the long run. It's not going to help you earn extra income as such. Unless you own a gym, or you can sort of say, I hold this, I run this gym. It does show that, give you some credit to your name that you have gone out and competed. Yeah, you've worked, you're at a certain level. I think that's what they're good for. But other than that, I don't really see it. I just see them, as practice. So,
I mean, for me, in my competing I went through a real phase of just competing every time I could, and the personal growth was huge. It wasn't so much the comp. It could have been friendly weekend comp. I would have been just as scared or had to do just as much prep. So I really see what you're saying. Just competing is the goal, actually, as much as possible, at least for my growth. But I don't think that, I really
100%.
like a wrestling model in the States where every kid wrestles every weekend, and that's a brutal sport. They can do it weekend. It's way less brutal. So I want to bring that to
100%.
I want jiu-jitsu comps every single weekend,
That's all I was craving. Like white belt, blue belt, I was just trying to compete as much as possible. In Victoria, we didn't have as many comps, especially as New South Wales. But I would have loved it if there's a comp on every weekend or every month. I would have just been there 100% competing.
There's definitely more now though than when we first started. Even in Vic.
Definitely increased. Increased. Back in the day, you obviously had your sort of your club comps, and you had your GTA, Pempax, so your AFBJJ comps. And that was kind of the majority. You'd have to travel interstate if you sort of wanted to compete regularly, which obviously then costs money. So, but now, you've got a lot more options with, grappling industries coming in. You've got that new one, Savage Grappling. Barack's just opened up his comp. There's a lot more club comps happening now, like Dominance, Renegade's still going. So, a lot more options for people now.
And there's a lot of white belt only comps and stuff like that for people when they're beginning, because it is a bit overwhelming.
Correct.
To go into a big comp like Pan Packs or Vicks or something for your first one. So
a waste of money, probably.
Definitely.
It can be. Not a waste, but it just seems like a lot of money to spend for one or two fights.
Well, that's the first question I get asked. They're like, is it a round robin or is it a knockout? I'm like, unfortunately it's a knockout. So you lose that first round, there's no more matches, unfortunately. So,
that's great. That's really, really cool. And what would you give as far as tips to with your coaching now? What when you're coaching beginners, what do you like to tell them? What's the first and most important thing that comes to mind when you're teaching someone about BJJ?
Pretty much just try to put into practice what we've been doing in class. So if you can, don't let the situation overwhelm you. Just treat it, like I said, as a practice run. Exactly what you roll like in class, what you do in class. Try to do that to this person instead of being a training partner, though. It's just obviously someone competing against you, trying to implement their game. So just try to take that pressure away from making it bigger than what it actually is. And then also try not to implement anything new in your last couple of weeks of training. Obviously, when you go in there, it's very hard to, if you've just learned something the week prior, to sort of implement that straight away. So try to lean back on your previous experience and your previous techniques, sort of what you've been learning prior.
Love that, man. So it sounds like it's your game versus their game, not you versus them. And
pretty much. Yeah.
And Jess, what about the evolution of jiu-jitsu? Like you talked about how you're studying it and you're sort of, I guess, trying to evolve from what it was or what you learned back when you first started. What do you see the future going with jiu-jitsu? Obviously no-gi has really come up in the last 3 or 4 years. What other changes do you see coming along in the jiu-jitsu scene?
Good question.
I'm
I
giving
don't
you some
know.
good questions, aren't I? I'm really
We could see
stumping
it
you.
go back to people favouring gi. I honestly don't know, but I think just the no gi scene just continues to grow, especially with social media and that. And Craig's doing really well over there with the guys at the B team. I think no gi is just going to keep growing, to be honest. Even all my students, like we went to 50% no gi classes, 50% gi. Even with the numbers that turn up to no gi compared to gi, no gi like far outweighs the gi at the moment.
It's the same at Absolute, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And what about positions though? Like I hear people saying they think the closed guard's coming back. Like what do you think about like new positions and stuff, do you think?
Well, I guess Gordon sort of shed light on, he's got a pretty strong mount game. So he's showing that, and obviously Hodge did back in the day as well, showing that, mount is a dominant position, because that sort of, a lot of people were sort of almost afraid to get to mount or weren't sure what to do there, but Gordon's got a good system from there as to what to do from mount now. So I feel people are going to be trying to get to mount a bit more. Even the back, like people now have got quite strong back attack games. They're quite diverse attacking from the back compared to, I feel like, in the past. And obviously like the evolution of leg locks, which has been happening for years and years and years now. That's just going to continue evolving as well. Everyone can defend them now. Yeah. So now it's more the offense component of people now starting to chain together more and more attacks to catch out those people defending that just have the one or two basic defenses.
Yeah, well, everyone except
because we'll get to a point where I'm sure you can defend them, man.
No, not yet. But okay, so that is interesting. We also had Tom Everett on last week, and he was talking about how like the B team are not mucking around with, but fully implementing ideas from MMA back into jiu-jitsu now, like, pinning the hips and doing it, in ways that MMA fighters do versus the way that traditionally jiu-jitsu's happen. And it's really kind of part of the evolution as well, is now BJJ is taking from other areas, not just giving to.
100%. Yeah. Pinning, like pins are amazing. Like when I'm passing, I'm always pinning the hips, pinning a knee to the ground, putting all my weight through that limb rather than putting the majority of my weight through my feet. So yeah, definitely with pins and that, traps. I can see a lot of the training the B team do. It's all about that. So, and very wrestling dominant as well. The amount of wrestling those guys do over there, just from the footage that you watch, it's quite good. Even like sparring Absolute with a lot of MMA guys, it's just completely different compared to standard BJJ practitioner. When you roll with them, it's just two completely different games. Yeah. In some ways, MMA guys are harder to deal with.
Yeah. They've got that pain threshold as well. They just don't tap anyway, man. They're like you and your old days, they just won't tap.
And any interest for you to get into MMA, Jess?
No, I had an amateur fight back when I was 21 or something. Did well in that, but just had some health issues after that and decided not to go down that route, unfortunately. And yeah, glad I didn't. I really enjoyed jiu-jitsu alone. So yeah, glad I stuck with jiu-jitsu instead.
Yeah, I have concerns. Like I love MMA and I've been watching it for years, but just that trauma, that head trauma and other trauma.
Yeah.
I have real concerns for MMA fighters, as much as I love them. And I just real as a father, like my son talks about MMA as a fallback if nothing else works out. And I'm like, I've created a monster, please don't. If he does, he does. But I can't imagine anything worse than watching my own kid throw hands, and more importantly, get punched in the head. So yeah, I don't know what the solution to that.
I think no-gi is exciting enough by itself. Like that's pretty fast and, can be just as entertaining to watch without the strikes.
Yeah.
No-gi is good. Yeah.
What about combat?
A lot harder.
That never took off, combat jiu-jitsu, or did it? Is there any the slapping?
That's the one with slaps, slapping.
This is still around. I don't know whether it took off or not. I didn't really watch much of it, to be honest. So didn't really appeal that much to myself.
If I did a matchmake, right? If I got Jess Smith and I don't know anyone, Lachlan Giles, whoever, convinced both of you to a combat jiu-jitsu match, would you take it? And people could bet on you and stuff. Would you accept it?
I probably would, but like it'd slap the shit out of me. So
I'm tempted, man, to try and make this happen. Not Lachlan necessarily, but a good enough start for
and Jess, what's next for you? What's on the horizon? Obviously, your gym's coming up to 1 year. Anything else beyond that for yourself personally?
Yeah, I'd like to do an official opening day soon. Now that I've sort of got everything set up, I'll look at doing that. Personally, just looking forward to watching ADCC, to be honest. So sort of hanging out for that, just watching all the Aussies get over there and hopefully do well. In terms of, anything else, competitions, probably do pen packs. And,
you didn't go into the trials, yeah? The ADCC trials? Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, I had a long, hard think about it. A lot of people pushing me to go in, go in and have a crack at it. But to be honest, I just hadn't been training enough for it. And yeah.
You just had a new baby too, yeah?
Yeah, I literally just had the baby. A lot of stuff happening with the gym as well. So I just thought, look, and I was just finishing off my MBA. So literally had my last couple of assignments for that on the weekend. So I wasn't really getting much hard training in. I thought, look, if I do it, I don't want to half-ass it. I want to go and do it properly. So probably the next one, next time it comes to Australia, next trials, I'll definitely be jumping in.
Awesome. Every 2 years, is that right? Is it every 2 years?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, obviously this one I think got pushed back a year because of
COVID. Pushed back. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's great. Well, we are getting close to the end of our time. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to promote? Anything you want to get out there? Sponsors.
You can plug your sponsor. You can plug your sponsor. We're still waiting for a sponsor too, Roll or Die, by the way.
Yeah, we are.
Anton's got this fantastic sticker.
I do.
So Atlas fan. I'll say get on it.
Yeah, awesome, man.
No, nothing in particular, guys. Thanks for having me on. It was good having a chat with you both.
Yeah, you too. And we look forward to seeing you on the mats and in the competition scene down the track. So we'll have this out in about 2 weeks or so. If you could share it on your social media, that would be awesome for us. And we look forward to seeing you around.
Yeah, everybody get over to BJJ, go have a roll with Jess and find out how much of the this guy is. He will mess you up. I promise you. He will mess you up.
We'll see.
All right. I'll personally pay $10 to anyone who can beat Jess at a roll. I'm done. You speak too much.
Heard it here first.
All
right.
Okay. Thank you, Jess. We'll see you. See ya. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.